Music soothes the soul, and music brings so much joy to our life and well-being. The Hearing Loss Association of America Research Symposium on the Joy of Music and Loving Your Ears is about still enjoying music while you have a hearing loss. Our symposiums bring science to the lay person on topics that they want to dig deeper into. So this isn't just about the joy of music, it's also about musicians and listening and audiences and protecting your hearing.
Talk about that because it's a very common question. There's something called the 80-90 rule. And sometimes I call it the Fligor rule because Brian Fligor did most of his doctorate work on this. And what Brian Fligor found is that you can listen to your iPod or your MP3 player for about 80% volume for 90 minutes a day. So 8 out of 10 for an hour and a half a day. That seems to give you about 1/2 of your daily dose of noise exposure. So music exposure is much like noise exposure or even radiation exposure with X-ray technicians. When you hit your maximum dose, that's not a good thing. So 80% volume for 90 minutes a day. It does depend on which earphone you use, but on average, it seems reasonable. Your favorite song comes on, turn up the volume full blast, enjoy it thoroughly, just turn it down to a more reasonable level after, or maybe don't listen quite as long. So how loud is loud? Well, as humans, we're really good at saying whether something is sharp or flat. So we're really good with frequency. We know something is pitchy or not quite right, but as humans, we're not very good at discerning differences in loudness. And it's incredibly amazing how quiet a damaging level of noise or music is. It sounds very quiet. So how loud is loud? Well, we know that from industry that anything over 85 decibels, if you listen to it long enough, will create a permanent, measurable hearing loss. 85 decibels. So what is 85 decibels? Soft rock? A telephone dial tone. Nobody in their right mind would think that a telephone dial tone is potentially damaging or even loud, but it is 85 decibels, and if you listen to it long enough, it will create a permanent hearing loss. Your MP3 player on half volume, but it depends on the earphone as well. Also, next time you're not feeling very well and you have your head in the bowl and you flush the toilet, that's 85 decibels. Now don't do that with hearing aids on because the hearing aids are going to flop into the bowl. So we went to school and we learned 2 factors affecting hearing loss. One was the sound level in decibels, sometimes called the intensity, and the duration, how many hours you're exposed to it. And it's tied together with something called the 3 decibel exchange rate. And what this means in English is, and don't panic, 85 decibels for 40 hours a week is the very same thing as 88 decibels for only 20 hours a week. For every 3 decibel up, it's double the damage, so you can only get away with being exposed half as long. 91 decibels for 10 hours a week, 94 for 5 hours a week, 97 for 2.5, 100 decibels for an hour and a quarter. So you can go to a rock concert, or your kids can go to a rock concert on Friday night and really blast their ears out, and actually that's okay as long as they don't mow the lawn on Saturday morning and they do other things during the week that are relatively quiet. Now, no one's going to do a calculation like this. So there actually is a device called a dose meter or dosimeter, much like a radiation dosimeter for X-ray technicians. And when the number gets to 100%, they've achieved 100 decibels for an hour a quarter or 85 for 40 hours a week, whatever that combination of duration and sound level is. And you want to keep that level below 100% of your dose. So it's not just the sound level. There's nothing wrong with 95 decibels. There's nothing wrong with 99 decibels. It just depends on how long you're exposed to it. Your favorite song comes on, turn up the volume, and then turn it back down. Lindgren and Axelson did a study about 40 years ago, and I remember I was just graduated as an audiologist, and this study came across my desk, and what they did, they measured what we call temporary threshold shift. That is, if we go to a rock concert or do something noisy, if I was actually to measure your hearing immediately before and immediately after, there'd be a temporary difference or temporary threshold shift. After 16 or 17 hours, that would come back to a more plateau or equal level. And so this is the type of experiment we can do with humans, because we can't cause permanent hearing loss with humans. But what they did is that they subjected subjects to music and noise of equal energy, that is equal dBA and equal duration, the two things that we know about. But they found, interestingly enough, that those that were exposed to noise were more susceptible. That is, in 4 of the 10 subjects, it was equal. But for the other 6, the noise exposure seemed to create more temporary hearing loss than the music. And intuitively, you almost think, well, music is more protective. Turns out, though, it's the other way around, that negative things like noise are more damaging. So it's not that music is protective, but there's something about noise that is not so great. And one of the reasons is that you hate it. It's something negative. And this study's come out, and there's been many, many studies since then. But it turns out that at the smallest molecular level in the ear, if you hate something, if you're stressed about something, it's more damaging, not only to your ears, but to all parts of your body. In the 1960s, there were these big ads saying, stress the big killer, talking about your kidneys, your heart, your liver, your lungs, and all that. But now we know it's also your ears as well. And it's called glial excitotoxicity. How's that for a stupid word on a Friday morning? But this is essentially what it means. And loud music is the same thing. So loud music, stress are the same things. What happens when you're stressed, or what happens when you listen to loud music, is that when you're stressed, high levels of cortisol are being generated in your body, and through a complex mechanism, the stress hormone, cortisol, gets into your brain, causes higher levels of glutamate. Now, you may not have heard of glutamate. It's like dopamine and serotonin. It's one of those other neurobrain substances that we need in order to live. Glutamate's the one for the hearing mechanism. It turns out that high levels of glutamate is toxic to your ear. And it doesn't matter whether this higher level is from loud music or loud noise, or whether it's due to stress. Prior to 1988, there was no such thing as hearing protection for music. If you all plug your ears, you sound like garbage. You just lose the whole right-hand side of the piano keyboard. You can still hear the low end, but it doesn't sound like music anymore. In 1988, a company called Etymotic Research in Chicago developed a mechanism to put back the whole right-hand side of the piano keyboard. And so everything would be taken from a damaging or irritating to a non-damaging level, but the shape of the music maintained itself. And the top left is a custom version, but there's a one-size-fits-all at the bottom. And this type of earplug called the ER15, or the bottom is ER20XS, are very, very useful, and many modern musicians are wearing one version of this type of an earplug. Just to show you what this is called a spectrum. So the top line along the bottom there is the piano keyboard, and how high it is in decibels. The line is a violin playing the note 8440 on the treble clef, and then we put on the ER15 earplug, and it drops it from a damaging to a non-damaging level, but it's flat. It still looks like music, and so that's been a great boon since 1988.
There's just so many things that we don't know, even those of us who have been long-time people with hearing loss, and it's always good to put yourself in a situation where you can learn important things that really do impact your life, and you just haven't been aware of them. One of the things that I liked learning about during the session today was the issue of it's not just the volume that affects whether noise is impacting your hearing permanently, but it's the duration of time that you're exposed to high levels of noise.